Want to make your money work harder? Enjoy another video with Adam Kahn, the rational investor on stocks, real estate, and crypto. Subscribe now for your weekly dose of investment insights and hopefully learn a thing or two.
Hello, my YouTube friends, and happy Wednesday. As I anxiously wait NVIDIA's earnings because the bell just closed on Wednesday, I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that are going through my head about what to expect as Trump has won the election, obviously, which is old news, and the Trump trades, and what I foresee with some of the markets and what I hope for and what I worry about as well. Now, it drives me nuts anytime I mention the name. It gets like I have a problem with the algorithm. I don't mean to get political, but there seems to be some issue with how I post it. But hopefully you guys still find the video and you find the information interesting on my thoughts of what we might see over the next 4 years. Now, we also have Snowflake as well as Palo Alto Networks reporting today, so forgive me if the video gets a little bit choppy or I cut out here or there, because I am really curious and I might even give updates on some of it and how it came out for any of you who are curious. Now, the other thing I'll talk about is Target and their awful quarter, but the fact that the stock got pummeled, and does that create an opportunity on it? So we'll talk about all those things today, and you guys can share what you guys think. Then we'll go from there, right? So let's start with the Trump trade and my hopes for the new government, like all the agencies, the new administration, having a Republican Senate and a Republican Congress. And the thing that I'm most excited about and the most concerned about at the same time is what happens with the new Department of, I forget what they call it, but Dogecoin essentially, with Elon Musk and Vivek as well. You know, my hope is that these guys are wealthy enough and content where they've gotten in life that they're really going in to help improve things and really do a cleaning of where government waste is. My concern is that they'll really target the left-wing side of things and punish them and take money out of those programs and not look at the right-wing stuff and maybe not look at the military and some other things, but then go into social services, you know, welfare, Social Security, Medicare, and all of those programs and beat it up pretty badly. I'm really hoping that's not the case and that these guys are on the up and up, because when I was a kid, I interned for senator when I was in college, and there was so much waste in government, mainly because if you don't use up your entire budget, you get cut the next year. There's no encouragement for financial responsibility, which is part of the reason we spend too much. If all these people get in, they get a budget, and if they don't get used up, their budget gets cut the next year. Or if they come up with something that actually generates revenue, that it's downgraded, like it's not a good thing. Why wouldn't somebody go in, take a hard look at everything, see where the waste is, and really cut back on it? Because my guess is if we really took a hard look at where we're spending, there's tons of money that could be saved. It also seems like, now, as always, little disclaimer here, this is not financial advice. Please do your own research for any financial decisions you guys make. Reach out to a financial planner, not one in the chat box, but a legit one that you know and you trust, or do your own research. And don't listen to what I do. This is just for entertainment purposes only. What I see, though, in the crypto space is that there's probably some follow through. You know, I talk about how emotional markets are, and the toughest thing with crypto is there's really no way to value at least Bitcoin. Potentially there is with some of the other things, like maybe Solana has a way to actually value it, maybe Ethereum, and I am not a crypto expert to be the one to advise on how to value them anyway. But Bitcoin sure seems like whatever people agree on the price, it is, and it's a very emotional trade. That being said, it seems to be creeping towards 100,000 per coin. And my guess is once it gets above that level, it has room to continue. We now have a favorable government coming into place into the crypto space. They're going to change some of the people in power that have been fighting against it. They're even talking about making Bitcoin part of the national reserves. And when I hear Michael Saylor talk about it, I mean, he's super extreme. He throws out a number that he estimates it being worth $13 million per coin by the year 2045. Now, it's an absurd number, but it's also 20 years away, so who knows? And like I said, there's no way to value it. And part of his thesis is if we make it part of the reserve currency, and the next thing you know, you see other governments wanting to do the same thing, the same way that they use gold, and it drives the price way higher. It just makes our books better balanced because we have an asset that has some real value in it, potentially even causing a way to be able to pay off some of the debt that we've brought in. Now, I don't know. Again, not advice, but it sure seems like that market has room to run. And I think with the people in power right now, the things that are running are probably going to continue to run. It's the same reason I mentioned in another video about OKLO. It's not that I'm super bullish that stock, it's that I'm super bullish the fact that he's getting appointed potentially to the Secretary of Energy Department. And likely when somebody's on the board of a company and in a political power position, there's a good chance that the companies they own a lot of stock in get some benefits. Now, maybe that's just random luck, but it seems to happen from time to time. I even look back to when Dick Cheney was vice president and how Halliburton did during his run. Now, to be fair, it had a big drop at the beginning, but it doubled over the 4 years that he was in office. They did very well, including the big drop at the beginning. And if you were lucky enough to time it really well, I think you got 4 or 5x on your money in a 4 year period. I'd have to look at it again. Don't hold me to it if you go and look. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was Target. I know I mentioned it early on. I always love bad news on good companies because I think it creates good opportunity. But this is where you really have to decide what makes sense for your portfolio. Because I also think the reason that things get so oversold when bad news comes out is because the traders recognize it's going to be dead money for a little while. Now, if you're willing to wait out 5 years or 10 years, I think Target's going to figure it out and their earnings will be just fine. Even with the bad earnings, they made, I think, $1.85 per share, and they pay out somewhere around $1.10 per share for their dividend. At least me, stupid guy who hasn't run the numbers and dug into it real deeply, seems like they're generating enough income to be able to pay those dividends still. And again, I think they continue to grow. Imagine that next quarter is going to be better income than they had this quarter just because it's the holidays. The other thing they noted was that with the port strikes, their cost of getting goods to the stores went up significantly. I don't know if that's just an excuse, but it does make a lot of sense. If they were getting a lot of things from the East Coast, had to shift to the West Coast, tried to rush it over, so paid additional amounts of money to get it, and then just weren't as busy as they expected. There were a little bit of parts here or there that looked decent, but it was a really ugly earnings. At the same time, when I look at the numbers, they're trading at about 17, 18 times current earnings after the stock dropped so much. I don't think that's such a bad place to be. And that's just using this quarter's earnings and multiplying it by 4, not actually looking what's expected for next quarter and using the proper 4 quarters. Again, using a discounted quarter, still a low PE, they're able to pay their dividend, but you'll have to understand it's probably not really going to go anywhere, and you could take more pain in the next 3 to 6 months or even longer. But again, 5 years down the road, my guess is they're doing just fine and probably a good investment. Now, Palo Alto Networks just reported, and it looks like they beat. The stock is still off about 4% after hours. It just happened, so anything like it could push further down or potentially reverse and go higher. I personally love Palo Alto Networks, and I see when they beat as an opportunity to buy if the stock drops. Again, just my advice. You have to decide what works for you. But I think they're like top of the top in that space. And it's one of the ones in my portfolio that I don't even worry about when it's down. I think they're going to continue to drive revenue. And when I've listened in on the quarterly reports, I really like what the CEO says. They kind of change the way that they structure how they calculate their earnings, and the street really doesn't like it. So it seems like most quarters they get beat up pretty good. But what he said is essentially that this is a longer term view that has monthly revenue year after year after year versus what we get this day. And in the long run, they're going to end up way better off. So if they're continuing to beat earnings, to me, that's a good sign no matter how the stock reacts. I also haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'm guessing Snowflake did really well because they're up a bunch after hours. I thought I saw they were up like 13 or 14%. I'll have to take a look and see how those earnings looked and what's going on there. Snowflake's a really intriguing stock to me. It was one of those, like, at the height of the height that Jim Cramer was talking about and said it's just one of those companies you have to own. Now, full disclosure, I don't have any, but I do watch it out of curiosity because it's done terribly ever since he said that. I think it was trading over $400 a share and it's dropped down. Today, I just saw after hours, it was like 140 something, but I know it got down to, I think, $100 a share and potentially even below it at one point after trading, way higher than that. So I guess we'll see if it becomes a big player as the world moves along. So it does appear that Snowflake beat by about 5 cents. So the market seems to really like that. It doesn't seem like a huge beat, but they must have had low expectations going into the earnings. As I said, the stocks acted really favorably. I hope you guys own Snowflake. I hope you're having a great week. I mean, the markets seem to be doing just fine. So Nvidia has reported. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and go through it. Seems like, as usual, they've beat expectations, but the market must have expected a lot more because the initial reaction was a decent sized sell off. It was down about $6 or $7 immediately. Came back up where it's only about $2 down as I'm doing the video, but I guess we'll see where it goes from there. Sometimes it's just a rubber band, reverses and goes the other way, but sometimes that initial move is the follow through move. So I'm interested to see where it goes from here. Thing is they continue to beat. Their earnings actually make sense for the price of the stock despite how far it's run already. And it's hard for me to think of any better spot to be in that segment if you want to be invested in AI and chips and manufacturing. I'm sure somebody will come along and compete with them. They have big names trying to, but at least for now, they're the ones ahead of the game. And I think there's a bit of an overreaction to this Blackwell chip that's having problems overheating because what I see is a company that has so much demand that they can't keep up, which is a phenomenal problem to have. Now, maybe one should be looking at Target's earnings a bit and deciding if they think that that's a microcosm for what's going on in the economy, but I don't think so. And part of why I think that money might be dead for a little while is I do worry that they might be losing a little bit of market share because of where their sales were hurting is actually where Walmart's was doing well. And when I think about Target, and I'll ramble about it for a little bit, I feel like they've lost a little bit of that image that they had. I don't know how long it was ago, but when people thought of them as what they would call Target, we don't go there too often, and we really don't shop at Walmart just because I don't love going to Walmart. But what I will tell you is the last couple times that I've been to Target, I've been extremely underwhelmed. It doesn't have that feel and look like it used to, where it just felt like a nicer place to be. And I just felt like Target had an ability to be a more pleasant place to shop, but the price is really competitive with Walmart. The other thing is I feel like they've kind of done a half-assed job in terms of the grocery side of things. I don't know how to explain because at least in the Targets go to, there is space for some of it, but it still feels really small. I don't go grocery shopping there, and maybe that's part of why I say it. It feels like they're probably missing a lot of items. And then on top of it, at least when I look at the fruits and vegetables, the prices seem pretty high. And I don't think their customer base are similar to the ones going at Whole Foods. I think if they want to compete on that level, they have to be aggressive with the pricing. The other thing that having like a really good grocery area does is you get consistent people coming into the store every week. So even if you're break even on the grocery side, just to get people in the habit of coming into the store, I think there's a real benefit to that. And I'm guessing that's what's been helping Walmart to improve their sales while Target's been having a tough time. I'm not sure if they don't see it. I'm not sure what's going on with it. But if I were running Target, which obviously I'm not, nor have they asked me to, um, can't really blame them, to be honest. But if I were running Target, I would be using that as a loss leader or a break even or whatever it is, and not really pushing to try to make additional money by having the grocery side of things. My goal would be to drive people into my stores. And then I would do a good job of redesigning, making sure things showed well, and being super aggressive on the prices so that I'm competing with my competitors. Be a shame if Amazon and Walmart were having better prices because they felt like they built up a customer base. Don't forget where that came from. That was a really good campaign. They had a really good feel for a really long time, and it just seems like it's lost some of that. I don't know what it was when we went shopping there, but I really was, like I said, pretty underwhelmed with it. I'm going to go check the earnings. I hope you guys enjoyed the content today. If you did, do me a favor. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's really cool seeing how it's been growing. Smash that like button. You guys have no idea how much that helps the algorithm, so I really appreciate it. And make comments. Let me know what you guys think of the market. Let me know what you think about Trump winning and how things are going on that end. You know, I hope that they're able to do half of what the economy hopes they're able to do and what we're seeing. I think you will continue to see the 10-year go higher in yield and lower in price for a little while. I think you'll see stocks continue to do well. And then I'd keep an eye in case we really melt up and does it really shoot way higher. The other thing I'm a little excited for that I'm really hoping is that he's able to follow through with ending the two wars that's going on. You know, even Zelensky made a comment that with Trump in office, he sees that the war in the Ukraine is going to end sooner than later. My guess is he's going to, this is just a guess, you know, really, but my guess is he's going to threaten to stop funding and Ukraine is going to have to give up a little of the land near Russia, but at least people will stop dying, which is really important. I'm not sure what he'll do in the Middle East. It's a tougher situation, in my opinion. Um, but I really don't know what he'll end up doing. I hope that Israel and the Arab nations are able to come to some sort of a peaceful resolution, but it's a really tough position. I mean, if you're Israel and you're surrounded by a bunch of nations that think you don't exist and that you've occupied their land and want you gone, um, unless there's a real way to rectify that and make everybody comfortable that that's not like that things will be okay, I think it'll be really tough to get past that. Again, just my opinion. I'm happy to discuss it. And quite honestly, like, I like to argue. So if you say something in the comments and I come off argumentative, I apologize if you take it the wrong way. Like, I like to argue and then leave good friends. So feel free to say something where you disagree with me if you disagree with me on something. And if I respond in a way that's read the wrong way, just don't read it the wrong way. Because, like I said, I just might have a different opinion and I have a tendency to spout it. Um, so it is what it is. Anyway, have a great Wednesday. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you own tons of Bitcoin and you're making zillions of dollars. I hope you own tons of things that are going straight up. I'm going to go check out those Nvidia earnings and see what I think about them.